Welcome back to the 39th episode of the BatChums podcast. I'm Drew Leiter, and joining me tonight is my co-host, the man, the myth, the new legend, Mike Gordon.
Howdy.
Wow.
We're into our season 2 now, so I don't know how mythic I am anymore. But I think people have seen that I'm more man than myth. Especially at some of my mispronunciations. So we will try to be better about a lot of that, but as always, we mean no disrespect.
All right, so this is Batman Season 2, Episode 4, The Cat and the Fiddle. Episode aired Thursday, September 15th, 1966, directed by Don Weiss and written by Stanley Ralph Ross.
Now, Stanley Ralph Ross is an important name because we kind of glossed over it in the last couple of episodes, but he contributed in the first season, he contributed to the 2 Catwoman stories. So it makes sense that he's back for these 2 episodes with Catwoman as well. Now, he also, in addition to that, did the first 2 episodes with the Archer, and we'll be seeing a lot more of him, actually. I think this is around the time that Lorenzo Semple Jr. kind of steps back from the show. He's still listed as a consultant, but I don't know. I'll have to, as we go forward, it'll be interesting to see, but I don't know how much of a direct influence he has over the show anymore. I know in the past, in interviews, he's talked about how he felt that the show kind of floundered in the second and third season. So my guess is that he wasn't as active with it as he was in the first season and with the movie. But you'll see Stanley Ralph Richardson's name quite frequently now, and I think more frequently than any other writer. We'll check and see if that's true, but I think he contributed all in all about 27 episodes to this series, which is pretty significant.
Yeah.
And most notably, most of the Catwoman episodes, and whenever they need a new villain, somebody new to that's not from the comics, they usually call him, and he usually does the new villains to better or for worse. So it's so yeah. So he's an important name. Going forward, we will see a lot more of his stories. Uh, you know, so. Uh, but I think, we were kind of hard on him. I think the last episode we were saying that it's hard to believe that it was the same writer, because this Catwoman two-parter is really good. Um, and the Archer one was not. I've got some thoughts on that, but I'm gonna save that for a later time. But because I want to get right to the Catwoman. But I do think that obviously he's got his ups and downs, but he knows Catwoman, and so far, the episodes that he's written with Catwoman have been amazing. So
One question before we get into it. Couldn't remember. Was this based off a comic book or
it's not.
no?
No, it's
It's
not.
not. Okay.
No, no. I don't know if that's another thing about his work as well. Stanley doesn't sort of seem to use comics as the basis for his stories. I don't think any of his uh, stories are adapted from the comics at all. And in fact, like I said, he creates a lot of villains for the show that may have loose ties to some villains in the comics, but not as directly as we saw Lorenzo Semple Jr. bring to life a lot of them from the first season.
All right. So last episode, Batman and Robin wake up on the roof of a building tied to giant grills. Catwoman explains to Batman the reflectors have been greased with margarine to make them more friable. Giant magnifying glasses are placed over Batman and Robin. So they're trying to grill them.
They are trying to grill and fry him.
All right, so it's time to bring in our consultant on these cliffhangers.
Yep. Of course.
Bring the magic Batman.
Bring the magic.
So, Magic Batman. Will Batman and Robin be able to escape being barbecued to death? Here we go. Magic Batman says signs point to yes. So they will be able to escape.
They will be able to escape. Yes. Thank goodness. I was worried there. As Robin says, this is the closest call they've ever come.
Batman remembers there is an eclipse. When the moon covers the sun, Batman and Robin move their magnifying glasses precisely 14 inches to their left with their feet. When the sun returns, its rays burns through their bonds, restricting their left hands. With their left hands free, Batman and Robin quickly untie themselves.
I have to give Stanley credit here because normally we've seen in the past where these power outages or fluke things happen to save them seemingly out of nowhere. But in this case, in the previous episode, right at the beginning, we are told that there is an eclipse coming. So we know. So Stanley sets that up. So it's not out of the blue. And you know what? That's enough that it doesn't feel as contrived. Now, it's extremely contrived, but it doesn't feel as contrived because we do have some foreshadowing. We do have something that sets it up. And so I appreciate that. Just that little touch makes a difference, I think, because otherwise it just seems like, oh yeah, sure, it comes out of nowhere, like we've seen way too many times before.
And I'm just happy they didn't turn into Eclipso zombies. And the reason I bring that up is I just got done reading Batman Superman World's Finest for Earth Station DCU. And Cletus and I are trying to play catch up. So I read 3 issues in a row, and they're all have to do with Eclipso. And of course, the Justice League are on the watchtower, and they're watching the eclipse from the satellite. And as soon as the eclipse is over, some of the Justice League members have been possessed by Eclipso. So
Eclipso was a cool he was a cool villain. I remember reading some cool stories. There was, I think, a sort of a multi event that happened, I think, in the 90s or early
90s.
Yeah.
It was called, what was it called? The Eclipso Within or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, but it was like,
you know what? I'm gonna look it up now.
I don't know if it was it wasn't like a mini series. Instead, I think it was like all the annuals that year or something had to do with Eclipso. But yeah, some of those stories are pretty good. But I dig Eclipso, who I think we've only seen once in live action, and that was on the Stargirl show. The Stargirl series had
season 3, if I remember right, and
yeah,
that
was final season,
and it was that was really good.
Yeah, I really liked his use in that too. I thought that was pretty good, especially using him with shit. We're getting off topic, but this is not a Stargirl podcast. This is not Star Chums.
Star Chums, I love it. If you want to, but just to throw a little shout out there, if you do want to check out the Stargirl season 3, it's on my other podcast, Earth Station DCU. I don't remember what episodes because it's been a while since we reviewed it, but
this is not in our notes.
We didn't review it there.
These are not in our notes, but yeah. So anyway, Eclipso. Yes, Batman and Robin are saved from 2 fates here. One, they're not fried, and two, they didn't turn into bad villains, the bad side of them because of the Calypso. So they avoided two fates here.
Robin states that this is the closest call they have ever had. Robin was scared. Batman states he had no fear whatsoever. They always seem to escape the vicious ensnarements of their underhanded opponents because their hearts are pure.
Because
Maybe
their
that's
hearts are
maybe that's
pure.
why they didn't become Eclipsos, because their hearts are pure.
Well, he said he'd like to think so. We'll find out exactly through the course of this. We'll find out exactly how pure Batman's heart is. I think some things put that to the test, or I think someone puts that to the test a little later on in this episode.
Back at the Batcave, the dynamic duo remembers that Catwoman talked about an assault on Mount Gotham, but there is no Mount Gotham. Batman deduces she means the Gotham State Building. They rush to the Batmobile.
I don't know. Well, because they won't get answers standing there.
uh, well, since we're talking about this, one of the things I noticed, do you remember back in season one where I talked about the clocks being on the cave exit as they were leaving? I have
Yes.
not seen that since.
Yeah, I
I've
haven't
been
seen it
I've been
since
keeping
either.
an eye out for it, and I'm like, they're not there anymore. So it must have just been in a few episodes they did that.
I guess. I don't know. They are mixing it up a little bit, whereas before it was the same stock footage over and over again of the Batmobile leaving the Batcave. But I think since they had some new footage for the movie, I think they've sort of mixed that in. So you get a couple of different angles sometimes and shots of the Batmobile leaving. So I think, that's a good use of it. It's still the same sort of material over and over again, but at least they mix it up a little bit.
When the dynamic duo arrives at the Gotham State Building, Batman tells Robin he better put 5 cents in the parking meter. Robin argues that no cop is going to give the Batmobile a ticket. Batman says no matter, the money goes to building better roads. They all must do their part as good citizens. Holy taxation! Batman is right again. Except I don't think he'd be right in Indianapolis. Our parking downtown went to a private company. So
Oh.
I think that money's just going into somebody's pocket now.
Well, Gotham, look at the Gotham streets. They're pretty good overall. There's that
Well,
once
they
you
got
once you get off that dirt road that goes from the back gate to the main road. And understandably you can't have an actually paved road go to the Batcave. That would be bad.
they
But
also have to pay for that parachute pickup service.
I would like to think that Bruce Wayne kind of helped handle that fund.
Inside, Batman and Robin learn that the penthouse has been rented by Zubin Zucchini for a party later that afternoon. Robin remembers that Zubin Zucchini is the eccentric millionaire who cornered the salt market in the 1920s. Batman adds that he established the famous Ruby Match Company.
Yeah, we got uh this is the second episode. Well, second episode this season where a character's name had both the first name and last name start with Z. Because we had that it was the second episode, right? The second episode of the season, Walk the Straight and Narrow, where the guy goes up to get the money. Uh, Sam Jaffe. He was played by Sam Jaffe. I remember that. But he his yeah, because they go in reverse alphabetical order, and trying to look to see what his name is here. Um, Zoltan Zorba. And so we go from having a really, really, really poor person named ZZ to a really, 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 really rich person named ZZ.
Maybe this is the forming of ZZ Top.
This is this is the kind of like detailed information that our listeners and viewers want to expect from us, Drew.
Meanwhile, Catwoman's henchmen are watching outside of Zubin Zucchini's house. They tell Catwoman he just left in an armored car. Catwoman tells them to proceed with Plan A. Elsewhere, Catwoman is at the home of Miss Minerva Matthews. Hey, there we go, MM.
Yep, yep.
She hits the old woman with knockout gas and disguises herself as her.
She's got gas coming out of her fingertip.
Notice that.
That looked pretty cool. Like there's so far we've seen two instances of gas kind of or smoke effect here so far. One is when the ropes that are binding the dynamic duo burn off, and that has a huge layer of smoke. And then we get this sort of gas smoke that they've used, this colored smoke that I insist must smell terrible. Like I can't imagine like everybody involved. I don't know, I would, that's one thing I think if I was to get a chance to meet somebody from the series again, I think that's what I would ask them. I'm like, did you ever get gassed? Like that must have been terrible. Um, but Julie Newmar here plays the Minerva Matthews, and right from the beginning when we see her, because they use a double to sort of have her approach the door, and I gotta say, Julie Newmar does an amazing job in disguise here. I mean, I'm not convinced that she's really an old lady, but you have to really like cut through a lot of layers to discover it's Julie Newmar. The way she's dressed, the way she moves, the way she talks. I mean, she goes all in with this disguise, and even though she did use a disguise, I think, in the first two-parter that she was in. Plus the movie, we know that she's in disguised as Kitka. So that is a running theme with this particular Catwoman, is that she likes to go into disguises. But yeah, I give her credit for the disguise here because I think Julie Newmar did a really good job at selling herself as the old lady.
All right. Well, since you brought up Catwoman in disguises, I was reading Catwoman tonight for Earth Station DCU, and they just started a new story arc with her, and the issue starts with her waking up, and she finds out on television that she's been killed, and she, yeah, so she's on the run because there's a contract out on her,
Was it
and
Bookworm?
no, it's not Bookworm. We don't know who opened the contract out on her yet. But anyways, she goes to Berlin and uses one of her aliases she's used before. I'm trying to remember what it is off the top of my head. I was thinking it was Helen something. But anyways, so even in the comics, we've seen her use different disguises. So, and she goes and meets an oak accomplished as this disguise she's using. So
Is
I thought that was interesting. That's funny that it kind of correlates with the comics. So I've had two comics I've been reading this week for Earth Station DCU that have tied back into Batman 66.
I mean,
Everything ties back into Batman 66.
I was gonna say, man, its influence is incalculable over the course of like pop culture, movies, and comics as we know them. So
Yeah, we're about to learn another one here. An armored car pulls up to the mansion of Miss Minerva Matthews. The driver knocks on her door and tells her that he is in the armored car. Yeah, let me reread that. The driver knocks on her door and tells her that he is the armored car driver here to take her to the Gotham State Building. Miss Matthews asks if he has the money. The driver confirms that he has the $500,000 from her Christmas fund account. Now, that driver is played by James Brolin.
it is,
The
yes.
father of Josh Brolin, who played
Yes.
Thanos in the Marvel movies. So there's
And
another tie.
and Not only that, but he also play Jonah Hex?
Did
He
he?
pl- he played Jonah Hex in the Jonah Hex movie.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, let's bring it back to DC. We don't talk about, the influence on Marvel is one thing, but yeah, James Brolin, early parts for him. I do believe we will see him sprinkled throughout the next season or so. Not playing the same character, but apparently he was really good friends with someone behind the scenes. I think it was in casting director or something like that. So but yeah, this is very early for him. But uh, Catwoman notices him. Uh,
In the armored car, the disguised Catwoman receives notice that Batman has escaped. Catwoman tells her henchmen to go to Plan B. We never learned what Plan A was.
well, no, but yeah, that's okay. Um, the Yeah, Catwoman is spending her time in the cab, flirting with the security driver and the armored car driver, and it's funny because she dials back once she finds out that he's married, and I'm like, really? You're about to you steal, you attempt murder, and really you draw the line at adultery? Like, But yeah, well, I don't blame her because you don't want to mess with Barbara Streisand, like who is I think James Brolin's. I think they're still married. I think in real life, James Brolin. I don't think they were married this early in his career, but she wouldn't. Barbara Streisand's not just going to marry a security driver.
When Catwoman arrives at the Gotham State Building, she rides the elevator up to the penthouse level. After she exits the elevator, Catwoman opens a panel and turns off the elevator. She has her henchmen go out to the le- she has her henchmen go out on the ledge. I thought this was funny because who puts the on off switch to the elevator at the top of the building?
Apparently, they do in Gotham. And I also noticed here, I wanted to put a pin in this too, because when we talk a lot about a lot of the villain outfits, and they're all really great, right out of the comics, and 9 times out of 10. And of course, Catwoman's Lurex outfit is iconic. It really is. But I don't think we've mentioned it before because they do appear not the same not the same actors, but the Cat Burglar outfits do appear in the first season when we first see Catwoman. And I gotta say, those are just as I think iconic. There's something about them. I mean, they kind of look like mouse ears rather than cat ears, but they have a distinct look to them, and I think they're the best dressed henchmen around. I mean, usually the henchmen are just around like wearing t-shirts that say like henchman one or henchman two, like their names on them or something. Like
Yeah, they're
at
usually
least
pretty
Catwoman
lame.
has her henchmen have style.
Arrives at the Gotham State Building alone in the Batmobile. Several squad cars follow behind him. I got to tell you, Mike. When I saw Batman arrive by himself, I knew something was up. I was not surprised with what's going to come up next.
Fair enough.
Batman reveals that Catwoman plans to steal 8 pieces of cat get. Okay, before I read this, I played it back several times trying to figure out what she said, but this is what it sounded like to me. Batman reveals that Catwoman plans to steal 8 pieces of cat gut attached to 2 violins that are being sold for $500,000 each.
Correct.
Now I did Googling on cat guts and violins, and I'm like not finding the connection there.
That's what the strings are made of.
That's what the strings are made of.
I
Okay,
mean,
well,
not
why did
not really, not really. I mean, I don't think they're really made of that, especially now.
but
But
in
I
the
mean,
show?
I think it is sort of a traditional kind of a you know how like the footballs are called pigskin.
Yeah.
Like I've heard, guitar strings and violin strings, bass strings, referred to as catgut, being made from catgut. I don't think they're actually made from catguts. I hope not, because that would be terrible. But that's where he's coming from. So.
Okay. I thought I was mishearing it. I played it back several times. I was like, okay, I'm going with it.
I think the math is weird here because I think he says, well, yeah, no, maybe it's right, but it's just weird the way it laid out because he's got two violins and he's going to sell them at $250,000 apiece. And then Commissioner Gordon says that's $500,000. And and we know that Catwoman got $500,000 out of the bank, which is $500,000. Now, she doesn't bring $500,000 up to the penthouse with her because she gives James Brolin $1,000 just for being handsome. Uh, um, but uh, um, but yeah, it is kind of I don't know why I don't know. I don't know. It seemed like it was a lot of things and a lot of effort they could have just had one violin for $500,000. Like they didn't have to break it out into two. This is not a Two-Face episode, so we don't need two violins. So I don't know. I was worried. I wasn't worried about the cat cut, Drew. I was worried about the math. I was like, is this working out? Why are we doing this? I was told there would be no math. I don't know if you're about to say this, so forgive me. But so right after they're done talking about the violin, Chief O'Hara sees something up on the top of the building, and he says, "What are those? Are those birds?" And then Commissioner Gordon says, "Are they planes?" And then Batman says, just moves on, and I'm like, I think that's the first reference we've got to Superman on the show.
Yep, I'm pretty sure
It's
you're right.
it's really subtle too. Like, I mean, it's not if you know it, birds and plane, like the birds or the planes, but that's from the 50s Superman series. That was the big, I think that came from the radio too. Uh, so up in the air, it's a bird, it's not a bird, it's a plane, or, but, it's Superman. But we haven't, there's been no mention of Metropolis. There's been no mention of anything related to Superman whatsoever. But I got to give Stanley credit here because, I don't know if he wrote this or if maybe it was ad-libbed, but he slipped that in, and I mean, obviously, I'm picking up on that. I'm picking up on that reference.
I picked up on that too, but unfortunately, I didn't put that in my notes. Shame on me.
That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here, Drew. I got your back. I got your back.
With the elevator out of commission, Batman decides to use bat jets to propel the elevator up to the penthouse.
Which is another thing we saw him working on in the first episode. So they didn't come. He just didn't have them. He was working on them in the first episode, and then put them away or whatever. So I thought that's another thing where, again, they sort of just the planning of it. This is not this is not like today's TV series where, they'll plant seeds and then like 3 or 4 seasons later they'll pay off. They didn't have that kind of time when they were doing these shows in the 60s. So, but they had the luxury of doing things because they knew pretty much that anybody was watching on Wednesday would be watching it on Thursday as well. So, within the week, bam, bam, they can have this little bit of foreshadowing. They can set things up to pay off later, and I think that's an improvement to me over some of the things that we had in the first season.
Plus, it's also helpful that the same writer who wrote that episode wrote this one.
Right, exactly. Um,
So
I don't have any idea how he got them to stop on the penthouse floor. I don't know why he just didn't get smushed up into the ceiling.
He had
But
just the right amount of fuel. He could calculate anything else. Why can't he calculate the just amount
how
of
about
fuel he needs to get up to that penthouse?
how about the scene where right before that though, where he goes up the elevator door and he pries open the elevator door to the whole crowd is like amazed at his strength, and I'm like, Batman's not super strong, like
He's stronger
like
than the average person because he
yeah,
works out, but
yes, he works out, but I mean, yeah, Commissioner Gordon is standing there agape because he's like, oh my God, like I can't believe him that he could do that. And I'm like, well, Commissioner Gordon's had better days, so he can't like he couldn't do that. But it's not like a leaping over a tall building or anything.
all right. One of the other thing I wanted to bring up is when Batman got those bat jets out of the trunk of the Batmobile, did you notice he pressed like a trunk button behind his seat or something and then it automatically opened?
Yeah, that was
I
cool.
don't know if we'd seen that before.
I don't recall. I mean, I think we've seen him go to the trunk before, but I don't recall how he did it before, so I don't know.
Yeah, so I don't know if that felt new to me. So
Could have been. Could have been.
in the penthouse, Catwoman pulls off her disguise and tells Zubin Zucchini she is taking the violins and the cash. Zubin Zucchini pulls off his disguise to reveal Robin, the boy wonder.
I'll tell you, even though, yeah, you can kind of see it coming because Batman's alone, you're like, where's Robin? Um, I will say that Robin, the only time that I can recall that he went undercover before was when he was supposed to be a teenager, a rebellious teenager, and he failed at that miserably. He is really good playing an old man. I mean, because he told off the doorman who met him, like the guy who met him at the door. He was telling off Catwoman when they were making the transaction, like when when she when he was counting the money and he said it's short. And she's like, "Well, I gave $1,000." He's like, "That's your money." And I mean, I was like, "Will you go, Robin? Like, you're like into this character." When do you think they switched off? Do you think they switched off right at the beginning, like when he gets picked up at the house?
Possibly. I'm trying to think. We don't
I think it
really
must have
see it.
been. I think it
Yeah.
must have been then, because yeah, because there's not any other time. Because Batman is like they couldn't have swapped like on the pet in the penthouse or in the building there. Yeah, I don't because Batman hadn't got there, and I think you'd need Batman in order to make that happen. Yeah. Um, but anyway, I think it was a great use of Robin undercover. And he was and he kind of gets in a predicament afterwards, but he does pretty well under the circumstances. Much better than his last undercover outing. Let's put it that way. Of course, he didn't have to smoke, so that was good.
Catwoman's henchmen enter the penthouse from the window and capture Robin. Jack O'Shea reveals he's been hiding in the grandfather clock. He informs Robin that they won't be going downstairs to escape. He has a getaway rocket hidden in the penthouse.
All right, so Jack O'Shea goes from being this guy who kind of gives Catwoman information to being like partner mastermind of this whole caper, and I'm like, that was a big like surprise to me. I didn't think we'd see Jack O'Shea again, and then he sort of pops up at the end here, and I just was like, okay, I guess he's part of the big bad as well. I guess since you can't have Catwoman fight, um, yeah, it maybe they felt like they needed a guy there too, but I don't know. I didn't think he was necessary, but he was fine. Although, yeah, his getaway rocket is not as solid as a plan to get out as they'd hope. So I guess you have to have some fall guy.
Just as Catwoman's henchmen are about to throw Robin out the window, Batman appears and tells them to hand the boy. The henchmen throw Robin onto a table. which was I thought was kind of funny because he just kind of slid across the table there,
Yeah,
right to Batman.
they could have just as easily like tossed him out the window,
Yeah, I know.
but
Or they could have also tossed him at Batman and try to knock him back so they could get away, but whatever. The villains try to launch their getaway rocket, but it won't start.
well,
Batman and
before that, you have to well, is it here? Okay, because Robert gets schooled, and not by the cat burglars, but he gets schooled by Batman here because he says he uses bad grammar.
oh yeah, I left that out. Go ahead and fill us in about the bad grammar.
and yeah, because he said you won't get away that easy, and Batman corrects him saying it's easily, and good grammar is essential, and of course he's right. He's always Batman's always right. Batman's always right. But that's the second time in this one episode that Robin gets schooled by Batman about the proper way to do things. Always the mentor, Batman is.
The villains try to launch their getaway rocket, but it won't start. Batman and Robin pull the henchman off the rocket, and a battle ensues. Not being able to start the get. Go ahead.
Okay. One thing we kind of brought it up in the first two-parter with the Archer because the zap pow whams, the onomatopoeias is that what they're called?
Yep.
Uh, those uh, those were different in the first two episodes, but because they were kind of a play on Old English, like zappeth and clonketh and all of that sort of thing. Um, but here, they're kind of the same, but they're not. I mean, they're the same as we've always seen, like crash, boom, bam, or whatever, um, zap, pow, wham, etc. But they're no longer superimposed over the action. Instead, they're on cutaway cards. And I thought they were just doing that in the first two episodes because they were different. They were doing the old English thing. But in this two-parter, we saw it in the first part too with Catwoman, and when her henchman went up against them. And again, we're going to toss Batman and Robin out a window. Um, we saw that the onomatopoeias, the sound effects, were separate cards. Like so, they actually take you away from the action, which I think is it's a due. I mean, I know it's due to the cost of it, and I guess it was really expensive to do it, to superimpose it over the action. So but it seems to me that if you've got a hit show on your hands, as Batman was, I don't I think it's like really kind of petty I mean, I don't know how much it cost, but it must have been really, really expensive. But it doesn't surprise me that when a show's successful, because I've seen it happen several times, when a show's successful, the powers that be will be like, okay, great, give us more, but for less. And they cut the budget. And that's a recipe in my mind for disaster. And it usually signals the beginning of the end. And it's a little thing, but I think it's enough that it makes me, it makes me sad that they weren't given the money to do these effects the way they were doing them before. And I think the way they were doing before was much better because you didn't have the action broken up, between like you could actually, see what was going on. Those fight scenes were always choreographed really, well, and they're always fun to watch.
Yeah.
So,
Not being able to start the getaway rocket, Catwoman grabs the money and violins. Catwoman goes out the window and onto the ledge during the fight. After Batman and Robin take out the henchmen, they race to the window and find Catwoman stuck on the ledge. Batman throws Catwoman the bat rope and tells her to tie it around her waist. Catwoman
Catwoman,
throws the
Catwoman doesn't seem very cat-like here. Like, it seems like a cat would just go on the ledge and just be able to. Now, granted, cats always land on their feet, but and it is kind of ironic's not the right word. It is kind of hypocritical of her because when she told her cat burglars earlier to go on the ledge, they kind of griped about it, and she was like, you've got 8 more lives." So she told him to go out there. But as soon as she gets out there, now she is wearing heels. So I do understand that that's a little bit different. But yeah, I thought it was kind of weird that she needed help, that she couldn't just cat like be like a cat and just go across the ledge or whatever. But anyway, I just thought it was kind of weird for her. But we did see in the previous episode with her in the first season, she will do anything for the money, including fall from a great height. And this time, she's not really willing to do that again.
Bad
So
experience the last time.
I guess it has taught her a lesson. I guess she did use up one of her lives then.
Catwoman throws the fake viol- Catwoman throws the fake violins down along with the money. Batman ties the other part of the bat rope around the leg of a table. Catwoman falls from the ledge of the building, but the rope catches her. Batman leans out the window to pull up Catwoman when Jack O'Shea runs up behind Batman and pushes him out the window.
Man, Jack O'Shea went from being like kind of an annoying gossip guy to being partner in this caper to all of a sudden being a straight out murderer. Like I was like, damn, dude. Um, and yeah, that was pretty bad. And then Robin just, punches him
Yeah.
out.
Robin punches Robin punches out Jack O'Shea and then runs to the window's ledge. Batman and Catwoman are hanging together on the bat rope.
This is where it starts.
Catwoman Catwoman asks Batman if he is spoken for, married, engaged, or going steady. Batman replies that his crime-fighting duties leave him little time for social engagements. Catwoman replies, "Boy, have I got a girl for you."
And then and then Robin proceeds to lift them both up into the window. How strong is Robin? That's got to be that's got to be at least 250 pounds.
I know, I thought that was crazy too.
And that rope is very thin. Uh, so I I, credit to Robin, man. He must have like not skipped arm day because uh, he he does get into some scenarios here, but I think overall it's a pretty solid Robin outing because he does a really good job undercover and he ends up saving both Batman and Catwoman at the end. And we don't see that very often from Robin.
Just thinking about it, you know, with Batman and Robin being so strong, I don't remember seeing any weightlifting equipment in the Batcave.
It's
And I
all
would
that
know we've seen that lots of times in the comics.
it's all that nuclear stuff they're hanging around. It makes them it's like Venom. And I don't mean Marvel's Venom.
Back at police headquarters, Catwoman says she'll be an old tabby by the time she gets out of jail. Batman replies that there will always be someone waiting for her. Or wait. Batman replies that there will always be someone waiting for one as beauteous as her. Catwoman tells Batman that was the nicest thing he could have ever said. Catwoman goes to kiss Batman, but meows next to his mouth instead.
It gives him a cat rub. Gives him a cat rub. You're a cat man. You know what that is, Drew. The cats don't kiss. They give you like a little headbutt rub. And
Yes, they do.
that's very cat-like. And Batman Gordon catches him He's like, Batman, I do believe you're blushing.
Yep. As Catwoman is being led away, Commissioner Gordon leans over and asks Batman if he is blushing. Batman states it's just the heat of the day. It's unseasonably warm.
Yeah, I don't think Commissioner Gordon's buying it. We know that their detective skills are not great. Their deduction reasoning is not great on the Gotham PD, but I think Commissioner Gordon knows what's happening here.
Yeah, he's human. He knows what's going on.
Yeah, I think even Robin kind of knows because Robin's just like, ugh. But this is, I mentioned it, and I think in the first part too. This is the beginning. This is where it really begins, I think, because here is where we see Batman and Catwoman really start to like. By the end of this story, they are now like an item, and I think that'll be the case from now on when we see Julie Newmar's Catwoman. Unfortunately, they'll dial it back when another actress is cast in the third season. But for now, for Julie Newmar, and to me, for my money, the Batman Catwoman relationship is the best romance relationship of Batman franchise. Like I know that there's other candidates for sure, but to me, and I think it's because of the 60s show. When I watched it and saw Adam West and Julie Newmar play, flirting around in various stories and everything, it just felt like the chemistry was there and I really appreciated it. And so I've always been a fan of this relationship, and I'm glad to see it sort of progress here. Despite what happened in the movie, uh, they obviously the show doesn't really take into account what happened in the movie at all with Catwoman and Batman. So, but I think this is a solid entry. This, as you pointed out last episode, this should have been the season two premiere.
Yep.
Um, but I understand why it wasn't. Because it would have been weird to right out of the gate see Catwoman and Batman interact after the movie when it's a different Catwoman. So I think that would there, that's there, but I still think this is really outstanding. Along with the first two-parter, uh, credit to everybody involved because this is solid stuff.
Yep. I totally agree. All right. Well, that wraps up another episode. Do you have a shout out, Mike?
I do. As we're recording this, the holiday season is coming up, Christmas and whatnot. And while you're now, when you're by the time you're watching this or listening to this, it'll probably be, well past. But I did want to bring to people's attention, if they didn't know already, if they are fans of the classic Batman 60 series, that almost every year Hallmark comes out with really, really cool Batman 60s related ornaments. They do so. Um, they've been doing so since I think 2014 might have been the first one. I have the one from 2014, which is Batman and just sort of hanging around. Like it's from a publicity shot. For those people who are watching us on YouTube, you can see it, but audio wise, it's just Google Hallmark ornament 2014 Batman or whatever, and you'll see it's from I think Life magazine or some promotional poster that Adam West did as Batman, where he's just kind of he jumped up in the air or something. And it's really iconic and it's really cool. And they've come out with some other ones. There's one that are, how Batman and Robin scale up the buildings every other episode. Um, there's one that's like that. And I think the one this year, or the one I should say, yeah, for 2024, was a Batcave ornament, which was really cool. It has two sort of sections. One is at the top, it has Bruce Wayne about to go down the pole, and then it has on the bottom section, it has Batman and Robin in costume, uh, having just slid down the pole. And I don't think it actually has sliding action. Well, it says it has light, sound, and motion. So maybe it does. I haven't seen it in person, but maybe it does come to life where they actually do slide down. I don't know. That would be really cool. But it's not a cheap ornament. It's like I think $60. And by the time we're like I said, we're recording this, they're out of stock. So if you go to Hallmark's website, good luck. You have to get it in the secondary market. So the reason why I bring it up now, because we're heading into 2025, be on the lookout. When the Hallmark ornaments go out, usually they get announced in the spring or late spring or summer. Keep a lookout because these Batman 60s ornaments and a lot of their ornaments, geek related, like their Star Wars ornaments and other ornaments, stuff like that, go pretty quickly because they are huge collector's items. Star Trek, they usually come out with some Star Trek ones every year too. So Hallmark does a pretty fun job. But they've been doing it for like about 10 years now. So my guess is that if you were to get all of the Batman ornaments, you could have a bat tree this holiday season in 2025. If you can afford it, spend the money. But this is I hope they either reissue it or I know that after the holidays, Hallmark usually has a 50% off sale, but obviously that doesn't apply if well, some of the stores still could have it. So if you've got a local Hallmark store, it's possible that they've still got it in stock, but online they do not have any available. So
I can tell you, I have a Batman Star Wars Christmas tree every year.
do you? Wait,
Yeah,
Batman and Star Wars together?
yeah, they're
Okay,
on the same tree.
gotcha.
There's other stuff on the tree too. I got some Spider-Man and other stuff that goes on that tree, but yeah, it's got a lot of superhero stuff on it. I also got this cool Superman that it's Clark Kent. He's in the telephone booth, and it actually flips and turns to Superman. I've had that for shoot a good 10, 15 years, maybe even longer than that.
Wow. Do you
Yeah,
have
it's
any
pretty cool.
Batman 60s ornaments there?
I'm trying to remember if I had what Batman 60s I have. I do think I have some, and then I also have some just comic stuff or stuff from the comics too. So I think I have
Gotcha.
both.
Yeah, because they do have Hallmark does release a lot of Batman related ornaments from the movies, from the comics, from other sources as well. But the 60s, I think they come out with at least one of those every year, I think. So yeah, I don't know what the full lineup of their ornaments have been since 2014, but like I said, I think I have the first one here. But um, I would love to have a bat tree myself, but since we have cats, it's very difficult for us to have any tree at all.
I understand that. All right. And for my shout out, I'm going to shout out about Batman Superman World's Finest number 31, 32, 33. Since I talked about it earlier a little bit. Um, yes, that's Batman and Superman teaming up with some other Justice League characters and the Justice Society to take on Eclipso in those three issues. So we will be we will be reviewing those on the next Earth Station DCU podcast. So you can check those out, tune in, and listen to what we have to say about it.
Excellent.
Bat Chum, are you ready to get out of here?
BatChums ready to move out.
Atomic batteries to power, turbines to speed. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Don't worry, the worst is yet to come. Meow.